This is the publisher's perspective from the February 2016 Agribusiness Dairyman publication. 1 year of below profitable prices heading full speed into year 2 is our title. Subtitled, Is there a single producer who is willing to wait 3, 4, or 5 years for market demand to return prices to profitability? In this very special issue of the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine, we wanted to share what we have come to know are the greatest concerns facing dairy producers and the problems that exist in the producer sector of the U.S. and even for producers worldwide. Problems and concerns that, if addressed as recommended by and supported by hundreds of dairy producers, involved individuals and businesses who have their finger on the pulse of things domestic and global, would surely prevent unparalleled devastation, losses, and true human heartache for the producers and their family members everywhere. So we shout again from the rooftops to every dairy producer in America, and will even share the recommendations with producers around the world, these thoughts, market analysis, and in turn, recommendations that we are confident will save and prosper every dairy producer in America and around the world. 1. Concern number 1. Concern number 1. Everyone else in the dairy industry wants you to do what you, dairy producers, have always done. Even now, after a year where producers in America forfeited more than $14 billion in lost revenue, they, meaning everyone else in the dairy industry, wants you to produce more milk, and more milk, and do it for the lowest possible price, including below your actual cost of production. Concern number 2. You have yet to effectively respond to unprecedented evidence that less milk will yield more money and more profit. Getting paid losing prices on all of your milk, even the 4 to 8% too much milk, is not justifiable, much less sustainable. Concern number 3. The processors continue to gear up for greater and greater capacities, fully expecting that if there is an empty tank somewhere, dairy producers will fill it and do it at their own expense, even if that entails losing money in the process. Concern number 4. That mentality and resultant reality provides for them, the processors, the manufacturers, the wholesalers, and the retailers, the lowest price possible on all U.S. milk production. The low prices are not relegated just to Class 3 milk production and utilization, but 100% of all U.S. milk production, regardless of utilization. How would you like to have the benefit of the margins created for processors when overproduction reduces the price on all Class 1 and Class 2 milk utilization by $3 to $10 per hundredweight, knowing there has not been a single bit of demand loss for Class 1 and Class 2, especially here in the United States? Wouldn't you just love high demand combined with high prices for finished goods against the lowest price possible for your number one input commodity? In the producer's world, that would be the equivalent of buying your feed and cows at half price and selling to your processor for $24 per hundredweight. Number 5. Our next concern is focused on the current economic condition of dairy producers nationwide. After yet another year of break-even, or in most cases below cost of production prices, while the general economy of the country and the world are heading in a precarious direction at best. This is the time when we need to be very liquid, very flexible with our options, and very receptive to taking or making needed changes. Low prices below cost of production prices have dairy producers in the worst possible financial condition at the worst possible time. If we are to see and endure tough economic times ahead, and all the signs say we are facing tougher economic times, then our current economic condition is very critical to any hope of successfully navigating what is yet to come. You don't want to become engaged in the biggest battle of the war with no money, no financing, low prices, high production, low demand, falling beef prices, and walking pneumonia too. Under those conditions, you just might not make it to the other side. Our concern number 6. This is our biggest single concern. There is a very strong likelihood that prices paid to producers will not recover to a pay price over $15 or $16 through the rest of this decade. If we wait solely for demand to return to the markets, that being global demand. It can only be global demand that would come soon enough, fast enough, to save the majority of producers in this country and around the world. Nothing else could come faster, if it comes at all, than can global demand. Following the crash of 2009, it still took double-digit growth in global demand for U.S. milk and milk products for 4 full years in a row, until the markets responded with and provided needed economic relief to dairy producers. The continuous push by producers to make more milk did not allow the market prices paid to producers for their milk during any of the first 3 years of that double-digit growth in global demand until producers stopped growing milk production. In 2013, milk production growth was below 2% nearly the entire year, which finally created a rise in market prices paid to producers through most of 2014. In fact, those were record prices when supply was slowed and demand was at its highest levels ever. Overall, 4 separate years, 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013, dairy producers did not get price benefit from double-digit global demand increases because producers totally disregarded the need to reduce supply relative to profitable demand for their milk in order to achieve and maintain higher, or in those cases, profitable pricing. China will not come back into the market and pay twice the price. They don't need to. They can sit back, wait, buy a little more, all the while increasing and improving their own ability to make more milk. They are now the 3rd largest producer of milk in the world. We are fairly confident that they may well become the largest producer of milk in the world sometime late in the next decade. Sheer volume is what they need and what they do. Quality may well be an issue early on, but they will eventually improve in quality and milk production per cow. That is a long-term game changer. Concern number 7. Last but not least is the fact that American dairy producers are not only competing with some very formidable competition for milk production in other countries, but they are actually competing with the governments of those countries. Those governments have an insatiable need for more exports to generate more government revenues and balance each of respective trade imbalances. They are prepared to and are using tax dollars in a multitude of different ways to artificially prop up and even prosper a larger and larger milk production and processing industry in their respective countries. Pick the country: China, Australia, New Zealand, Vietnam, Venezuela, the European Union, with its 29 million cows and many, many more. Even India. India is and will be a volume of milk to be reckoned with over time. Today, India is the 4th largest producer of milk in the world. The U.S. dairy producer must come to realize that global is not your friend. Chasing global markets is not in the best interest of dairy producers long term. It is a financial boon to everyone else in the industry, but not dairy producers. You cannot compete with milk production that can be brought to the markets at lower overall costs, closer and even the closest to the hopeful markets, and then compete at a pay price below your own cost of production, which, if allowed, always destroys the price paid to producers for all the milk that is produced to satisfy the domestic demand for milk and milk products. It just doesn't pay to compete in that game. Producers have two choices. One, become market responsive in your daily milk production, taking full responsibility for your overproduction, even if it requires you to use your money to buy your production out of the finished markets and donate it to Feeding America or other food to the needy distribution options. Promoting greater utilization of milk by fortifying all fluid milk nationwide to meet or exceed California standards, focusing on better taste and greater nutrition. Then, producers must promote the consumption of milk and milk products as one of the most nutritious combinations of protein, fat, sugar, micronutrients available in the human diet today. It always has been and always will be, but we just get distracted with what we think matters most. The best possible product delivered fresh and cold to every consumer in America, even the 49 million citizens who today do not get a single serving of milk or milk products on a daily basis. That 49 million people represents 15.4% of a total U.S. market, a market that is totally underserved by the U.S. dairy industry. This is an unfortunate trend that has now gone on for more than 40 years, but a problem that can be solved to the betterment of everyone concerned. We should not have hungry people in this country. That needs to be stopped and can be stopped. Dairy producers can lead that important effort. The second option available to dairy producers will be to unhinge milk that is overproduced by producers from all other domestic production and clear it out of the markets by processing it into finished storable goods and only selling it to the global markets, returning to the producer who did overproduce the domestic profitable demand at a pay price set for dairy products by the global marketplace at that moment in time. Dairy producers cannot afford to let 2 to 8% overproduction reduce the price of the milk they produce for domestic consumption. Everyone else wants it to stay that way because they make billions of extra dollars on the backs of the dairy producer sector of the industry, regardless of the country of origin. That has to stop. We are sending producers to extinction, and if producers want that to stop, they will have to start responding to the economic realities of supply and demand. The game has changed, and producers need to change with it. There is no other way. We know there is a way forward, and it's time to get on with it. Dairy producers have and are coming together to implement ideas and processes that they have fostered and prospered. It is time for all dairy producers to unite, pushing this way forward toward long-term sustainability. Visit www.my-dairyman.com or www.dairypricing.org or www.nationaldairyproducers.org to learn exactly what you can do to fix these and many other problems. But prices paid to producers is our number one issue. We recommend that you become informed and involved in the solutions.